Hello everyone, I'm Lisa from Pilat-Haze and I'm going to take you through your Beginners Pilates class for this week. So these Pilates classes are designed for anyone who's completely new to Pilates, but also people who've been doing it for a while and want to bring it back to basics and just make sure that they're doing all the moves correctly and safely as well, okay? And I will be offering modifications, so if you do have any injuries, there's going to be different options there for you to be able to stay in the exercises. Okay, you don't need any equipment, just a mat, a little bit of floor space. If you do have any neck injuries or anything like that affect you when you're lying down, I would recommend to have a little towel or a blanket folded up just so you can pop under your head, and it can be used for different injuries as well during class. So if you do have any injuries, wrists, ankles or in the head, just have a little towel folded up and I'll tell you when you can use it, okay? So what we're going to do is just bring ourselves around on the mat and you're going to sit with your feet just about hip distance apart, heels nice and close to your bum. Hold on to your knees and then gently lower yourself down onto the mat, okay? We're going to start today with some shoulder bridges. So what you can do from here, just place your hands down the sides of your body, heels stay close to your bum, roll the shoulders back, let the chest and shoulders relax, and just tuck your chin in ever so slightly. Spread your toes, and what you're going to do is take an inhale, roll your hips to your belly button, so my low back is now flat on the mat. From here I'm going to exhale, standing into my feet, rolling up. Now you want to roll up super gently. Connect with every disc of the spine on the way up. Once you get to your top position, I want you to send your knees a little bit more forward so we can open out the hips a bit more. Pop your hands onto your hips and just make sure your hips are balanced. We're not dipping into the left or the right. And your chest is a little bit lower than you think it needs to be here. Big inhale through the nose. And then as you exhale, we're going to melt down. Now you want to roll down through the ribs, upper ribs, lower ribs, mid back, low back, and finally the tailbone, the bum comes down. Then again, we take an inhale, roll your hips forward first, then roll them back, and then up we go. Now the reason we want to have our hips rolling towards our belly button as we go up is so that we have a nice straight low back. We're not curving the back and putting any unnecessary pressure into it. Inhale at the top, and then exhale, melting down, peeling through your spine. Still making sure that there's even pressure into both feet so that those hips move up as one unit. We're not kind of wobbling side to side or lifting one side higher than the other. And then focus on your breath. And exhale on the way down. And inhale at the bottom. Exhale on the way back up. And an inhale at the top. Now, if you're not coming up as high as me, don't worry, especially if you have any injuries and if you're finding it really difficult or challenging. You can come up just a couple of inches off your mat and then go back down. Or if you're finding it hard just to get yourself off the mat, what I'd suggest is put your feet up onto something like a block or a step or even a chair, and then pushing your feet into that just to help you get that little lift up. And again, you don't have to go super high. Go up as feels good, as feels challenging for you, and then back down. We're just going to do one more. Keep that chin tucked in. You're looking towards your knees, to the top, and then melting all the way down. Now we're going to take an inhale at the bottom. Roll your hips to your belly button. Exhale, up to the top we go. Now we're going to do a little massage for your spine, and we're just going to connect with the spine a little bit more. So I want you to close your eyes and just remember your knees in this movement are going to stay facing forward. So sometimes in this movement when it gets challenging or if it feels a bit too difficult or too tricky for the spine, we just throw our knees off to the side and hope for the best. I want you to keep your knees forward and just remember it's your spine and a little movement of the hips. So what I want you to do at the top, you're nice and balanced, hands down by your sides, big inhale. As you exhale, you're going to focus on the right side of your spine coming down first. So I'm going to lower down heavy on the right side of my back, through the upper ribs. The left side will follow, the lower ribs. The right side of the mid back, right side of the low back, right side of the tailbone, right bum cheek. And then I'm going to roll back up on that right side. So I'm going to lift the right side of my bum up, right side of my low back, right side of my mid back, right side of the lower ribs, the upper ribs to the top. At the top, I'm going to balance between my left and right. And now I'm going to go down on my left. Left side of the upper ribs, left side of the lower ribs, left side of the mid back, low back, tailbone, bum, and then back up on that left side. Remember, try and exhale on your way up balance at the top, and then we'll go back down on the right. Heavy on that right side, controlling with our breath, all the way to the bottom. Once you're down there, big inhale, and then exhale up on that right side. Super, now we're just going to do one more on the other side. Exhale, melting down heavy on the left, and this is a super massage for your back. And don't worry if your knees are moving and if you're like, oh, I just can't get this. It does take a little bit of practice, especially if your back is tight. We're learning spine articulation here, so it is a nice massage for the spine, but some people might find it really tricky. So don't worry, it does come with time. Focus as best you can with your eyes closed so you can imagine it happening until you get there. Once we're at the top this time, I want you to balance through left and right. Take a big inhale. Now exhale heavy through the center of your spine, so evenly through the left and right side, melt down. That should feel really, really nice. Make sure the hips are balanced, they're coming down together. Once you're at the bottom, take an inhale, roll your hips forward, then roll them back so your low back plants on the mat. And then exhale, we come to the top, we hold it here. And come up as high as feels good and challenging for you. Don't worry about the height. Just up as high as you can with those hips standing evenly into your feet. Hands are planted down by your sides. Hips are going to stay balanced here. So as best you can, keep that balance between the left and the right hip bone. From here, put all the weight and balance into your left leg. Float your right leg up into tabletop. So just knee over the hip, shin in line with your mat. Hold it for 1, for 2, pop it down. Transfer the weight and focus into that right leg, left leg pops up. So this is just a stability challenge for your hips, for your pelvis. Hold for 2 seconds before changing. Your goal is that you don't drop into that hip. Imagine your thigh bones reaching up and out of the hip socket to keep those hips balanced. Last one, up on the left, and pop back down. If you want more of a challenge, you can do more of those. You could do 6 to 8 reps and you'll fire up your hamstrings, but we'll leave it there for today if you're feeling good. Big inhale at the top, and then exhale, melt all the way down, right through the center of the spine. Once you're at the bottom, bring your knees into your chest, and just give yourself that little baby rock from left to right. Okay, staying with the hips, what we're going to do from here is lengthen our left leg out in front. And what you can do is pop your hand onto your left hip bone. You could flex the foot towards your face to keep the leg active, or if it's your first time doing this exercise, just relax the foot and make sure that your left hip stays steady. Okay, so you choose. I'm going to go for a flex foot, keeping my leg active. From here, bring your right leg into tabletop. Now, your right hand, I like to keep it on my ribs so I can focus on keeping my breath moving in and out of my ribs and take it out of the chest and shoulders. Just move that breath lower down, okay? You could also have your hand on your belly if you want to focus on belly breaths, or if you're finding that you just feel a bit wobbly on the mat, place your hand down on the ground for a bit of stability, okay? So I'm popping my hand on my ribs, leg is in tabletop, and then from here, what we're going to do, with your right leg, you're going to do a leg circle. So I'm going to bring my right knee towards me. I'm going to move it out the side of my mat. Move it around the front of my mat, across my left leg, and back to center. And that's all we're doing. Just nice leg circles here in tabletop. So whenever you're doing a leg circle in class, all you're doing is mobilizing your thigh bone in your hip socket. So that's what hip mobility is, how well we can move our thigh bone in our hip socket. So we're just spiraling around, and it can be a really small circle, or you can start to take it bigger. If you've done Pilates before and you're looking for more of a challenge, or if you're doing this exercise and your hips are feeling really, really good today, you could try this with a straight leg. That's going to be much more of a challenge. We're going to bring the hamstrings into the movement a lot more then. You can always stay in tabletop. And then we'll reverse that circle. Initially, you might go a little bit smaller when you reverse it, and then you can build up and go bigger. Keep your chin tucked in. Again, if anyone has any injuries in the neck or the shoulders, you can always have a little folded up towel under your head here for a bit of support for the neck. But we'll always keep our chin tucked in just to keep that length in the back of the neck anyway. Let's go for our last 2. Make sure your left hip is staying steady. And then we'll go for our last one. Well done. Reach that right leg straight out. Again, flex the foot towards your face, keep it nice and active, or you can just relax that leg, but we're keeping our right hip nice and steady. So hand onto the right hip, opposite hand can be on the ribs, the belly, or on the ground for stability, okay? Let's bring that left leg into tabletop, toes pointing forward. We're going to start by bringing the knee towards us. Out the side, down around to the front, across the body, and back around. Now I like to exhale as I do my circle and inhale as I come back to center. That works for me, it might not work for you, so you can always test out the breath. There's no right and wrong breaths in Pilates or in life, but what we recommend is exhaling on the hardest part of the movement, because when you exhale, your abdominal wall shortens to come in and help you, and inhale on the easier part of the movement so that you can get a bit of recovery. Again, you can always switch to a straight leg here if you want more of a challenge. But I would recommend, if you have any injuries or if it's one of your first few classes, stick with tabletop. If you find it hard to keep the leg in tabletop, bring your heel towards your bum, and that'll take off any pressure you might have on the hips. Okay, let's reverse that circle now. Again, sticking with whatever you did on the other side. So if you went straight leg on the other side, if you went tabletop, if you had the heel tucked in, whatever you did, do it here. We have 3 to go. And 2. And then go for your last one. Well done. Pop that foot down. Bring your right knee up to meet your left, and then bring the knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a little baby rock from left to right. Okay. From here, what we're going to do is bring both legs into tabletop. Stick your inner thighs together, stick your feet together, chin tucked in. Hands come up over the shoulders. Nice big inhale. Exhale, we're going to lift our head, neck and shoulders up and look at our belly button. Okay, we're moving our ribs towards our hips a little bit more so that our core is shortening. Are reaching our arms forward so the shoulders are down the back. From here, I'm going to take my hands onto my left knee, draw my knee in towards my chest, reach my right leg forward. Now, if you have any injuries in the hips or the low back, go higher with the straight leg. You can even have it straight over the hip if you need it, okay? That's going to take off any pressure you have on the low back. The lower you go, the harder it's going to be for the lower abdominals, the hips, and the back is going to be working too, okay? So you choose your level. We're going to stay looking at our belly button for the whole sequence. You're going to take an inhale, exhale, switch the legs. Inhale, exhale, switch. Inhale, exhale, switch. So we're going for our single leg stretch here, building strength in that core, bit of endurance, working the hips, the lower abdominals. It's a real all body, full body integrated movement. We're going to go for 8. Inhale, exhale, switch. 7, 6, 5. Try and keep the head, neck and shoulders up. 4, 3, 2, 1. Knees in, head down, and just give yourself a little baby rock from left to right. Well done. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do is just bring ourselves around onto all fours on the mat. Now, what you can do if you have any wrist injuries, you can roll up the front of your mat and then pop your hands onto the rolled up bit of the mat, making sure that the wrists are nice and supported and the wrists are away from your shoulders ever so slightly forward, just not putting all the weight down on them. Same thing if you have injuries in your knees and you find it hard to kneel, you could have that folded up towel or roll up your mat again on the other side and just put it underneath your knees just for a little bit of support on the joints there, okay? So once you have that done, you can pause the video and get yourself set up there, and then when you're ready, join back in. So we have our hands slightly forward of our shoulders. Our fingers are spread no matter where the hands are, whether they've got a bit of support underneath or if you're just on the mat. And our knees are under our hips, our feet are flat to the back. We're pressing the mat away from us so our shoulders are nice and supported. Eye focus is slightly forward. From here, take a big inhale through your nose, tuck your chin in, round out your upper spine, tuck your tailbone under. As you exhale, release your tailbone out, lift your eye focus up, open your chest up, and then inhale, scoop and lift up into the sky, and exhale, release it all back. Now think about your hips. You're rolling your hips up, you're tucking your tail under. You're rolling your hips down towards the mat, your belly button to the mat, and opening the tailbone, the bony parts of the bum out. With the chest, you're scooping the chest up, rounding out, and then you're releasing and lifting your breastbone up. Your collarbone is scooping in, tucking your chin in, your collarbone is opening out. Now what I want you to do is find a place between those two positions that balance. So we're not completely rolled up, we're not completely arching. We're at a pretty straight line here. Lower ribs up towards your belly button, pressing into your hands to create that dome effect with the arms. From here, all we're going to do, leave all the weight and focus in your right hand, left hand comes straight out in front. Give a thumbs up towards the ceiling so we externally roll that arm. Hold it for 2 seconds, place the hand down, transfer the weight, opposite arm comes up. Reach it up, big thumb up and down. So what we're doing is working on the stability in our shoulders and working on our core at the same time. I focus to the top of your mat as you switch from left to right. Try and hold for 2 seconds each side. 1, 2. To the right. 1, 2. One more each side. Remember, big thumb up so we externally roll your arms. So that's your natural bone rhythm, is an external roll as we go up and down. Now hold it there. Press into those hands, make sure those shoulders are super supported. I focus slightly forward of your shoulders towards the top of your mat. Now this time, we're going to keep our hips, you'll feel your hips right now are facing down to the mat. We want to keep our hips facing down to the mat. What you're going to do, just float your right leg out behind. Now, when we do this, we don't lift our leg up high and arch our back and start to sink down. We keep pressing into our hands, our shoulders are supported, and it's just a little lift. My hip is still facing down to the mat, so if you're not sure, you can always, if you feel stable enough, take your hand back and just make sure that that hip is facing down. Hold it for 2 seconds, place that knee down, transfer the weight, and then the opposite leg goes up. So I'll demonstrate here. What I don't want to see you doing is just rolling that hip up. We want to try to keep the hip facing down to the mat. We want to try and keep our low back pretty straight, so we're not lifting the leg so high that we get an arch. Lift, 1, 2, up and down, and again, 1, 2, and down. 2 more, 1, 2, and down. Last one, 1, 2, and down. From here, bring your heels together, open your knees out wide, sit your bum back to your heels, reach your hands forward. So that last movement was really, really good for working on our hip stability, our shoulder stability first when we were doing single arm, and then our hip stability, pelvic stability, and just strengthening and lengthening that low back, working our core. So really nice exercise to do. This stretch here, child's pose, just relax into it. Get your bum back to your heels as best you can by opening your knees out wide, sinking your chest, reaching the arms forward. From here, we're going to come back into a table position, and then we're just going to lie ourselves down on the mat. What you want to do from here is switch on the muscles in your legs. So squeeze the muscles in your legs, switch on your toes, point the toes back. They can rest on the mat though. Bring your hands either side of your chest. Try and press your hips down towards the mat. Now if you need to go wider with the legs to feel the hips pressing down, go for it. Head comes down to the mat. From here, we're going to take an inhale. Imagine you're nodding your head up like you're saying yes to someone. Lift your head, your chest, your shoulders, just halfway. So you don't fully extend your arms, just lift a little bend in the elbows and lower back down. We're only going for 3, just trying to strengthen and stretch out your low back. Inhale, lift. I focus slightly forward, not up to the ceiling, just forward. So we've lengthened the back of the neck and back down. Last 2, inhale as you lift. Feel your chest lift, collarbone open. You'll feel this stretch in your low back, but it's good. It's working the low back and strengthening the low back. Last one, we'll lift and hold. Now you have the option here to hold just as we are with the elbows bent, or you can extend all the way up with those arms. If it feels good for you, your hips will lift up, bit of a bigger stretch. Shoulders gliding down the back, collarbone open, breastbone lifting. Eye focus is a little higher here. We're holding for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From here, come up onto the knees, sit your bum back to your heels, reach your hands forward, and we'll just take a few long, deep breaths here. Reaching the hands away. Imagine your hands are reaching forward, your bum is pressing back to your feet, finding full length in your spine. You have 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring yourself back to center. And you can just sit in a cross-legged position and just pop your hands on your knees. We'll take a big inhale. Try not to lift your shoulders up. Just inhale through your nose. Feel your body expand. And exhale out. Now this time, lift your shoulders up, down and back as you inhale. Exhale, drop them back. One more inhale up. Drop them back. And again. And release. So there you have it, week 3 of our Beginners Pilates course. I hope you enjoyed it, I certainly did. So we did lots of lovely work for the hips, the back, the spine, a little bit of core work there as well. So should have got a bit of a good full body workout there today. If there's anything that you have any questions on, just pop your questions in the comments below. And I'll see you all next week for our next Beginners Pilates class. Well done everyone, looking forward to seeing you next week.